All right, everyone, what's up? Happy Aloha Friday. So with you as always, Skyler, and then a super special guest celebrity appearance, Mr. Marc now again. What's up, Marc?
Great to be here. Thanks for the invite on this July 4th weekend. I'm excited to be here.
Chad decided that camping at Lake Tahoe or something is more important than joining us. So whatever, we don't need him anymore.
I'm going to text him and tell him he missed out, though. No matter how beautiful it is up there, it's always good to be on Aloha Fridays.
Yeah, buddy, stoked. Hey, first and foremost, what are you drinking there? What's going on?
Pacifico?
Oh, all right. If you're gonna do a Pacifico, I'm gonna crack on a little Corona right here, if you don't mind me. Let's do this. Make it happen. It's a proper 4th of July weekend in Southern California. We can crack open a Pacifico and a Corona in the same.
Absolutely.
So. All right, buddy. So yeah, I'm looking in the back there. I kind of mentioned it last time. It seems like you're into sports, maybe a little bit.
You know what? Back in the day, in my previous life, I was in the car business many, many years ago, and I got to meet a lot of sports stars and celebrities being with BMW and Mercedes. And so I started this collection, which is basically my home office, and it's filled with jerseys and balls and helmets and autographed photos and things. So it's kind of like my home sports shrine, and it's a lot of fun. It's probably the most entertaining room in the house here.
That's awesome. Do you like still have those relationships with some of those people?
I do. Mostly the San Diego sports scene's not that, as you know, it's just the Padres pretty much left. And I do have good contacts with the Padres. I still have season tickets, although I don't go very often.
Yeah.
But got to know some really, really cool, interesting people through the years. And also in my current business, we meet people from all walks of life, including sports stars and celebrities.
That's so cool, man. That's so cool. Actually, speaking of which, I was listening to a podcast this morning. It sounds like football is going to happen this year. Have you heard about that?
That's what they're saying. They trimmed down the preseason to 2 games, and it looks like all the professional leagues are trying to start up, although with the recent spike of COVID, it's, they're all skeptical on whether this really can sustain itself.
So hard to figure out what the next step to do is, man. If you have a massive, essentially just business, right? Like sports is a business. And if you've got a team that relies on, viewership and stadium and people, butts and stadiums and everything, it's like, man, how do you figure that whole thing out? It's tough.
It is such a complicated situation because you can't really sequester people like in a bubble like the NBA is doing. But I was watching the baseball players this morning, and they're still going home to their houses. So they're going to play in front of no fans, but they're still going to go home to their families and restaurants. And can they all stay, virus free? We don't know.
Yeah. Actually, what's really interesting about that is I was also listening to the radio the other day, and they were saying that in the beginning, like a lot of the organizations were upfront and telling everyone, hey, like this player has it or this player got it. And then after a little while, people were like, oh, like, are we going to have sports or whatever? They ended up kind of shutting everything down and kept keeping it hush hush, which I think is good, right? It's like it's kind of keeping the integrity and the privacy of the players like in its own kind of way, but it's just, man, it's got to be so weird from a sports perspective, because as we go through like a pandemic when everyone's just on edge, right? Everyone's kind of biting their fingernails and just bored and trying to figure out what the next steps are. Looking forward to those events is something that I think a lot of people are hoping for, but who knows what's going to happen,
A bit of a diversion, even if you can't go, it's nice to be able to watch and do different things.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, I actually wanted to ask you something, and you kind of alluded to it earlier. You said that you were in the car business before. How did you get into the mortgage business?
So several years ago, one of my good clients from the car business had approached me about joining the lending business. And obviously I'd been in the car business for many years. I was in upper management in, big car dealerships, Penske Automotive actually. with Mercedes-Benz. And so I felt it was a great opportunity. I have a financial background. I have an MBA, so I kind of fell into the car business and spent a lot of time and had many successful years, but wanted to try my passion, which is finance and lending in particular. So I joined a small boutique firm in Del Mar and was there for a while. And then our branch manager left and took me with him to guaranteed rate. And that was a huge, huge move for me. And my business tripled, and it's never looked back since. It's been a great, great move for me.
Good deal, man.
Very busy times and a great growth curve, that's for sure.
Nice, man. That's pretty epic. So kind of moving into the next question that I have for today's July 4th edition is, like we had a conversation about 2 weeks ago, just about how things at the beginning of June, rates came down and there was just a lot of opportunity for refis and finding opportunity with either purchasing a house at a really low rate. How's the last 2 weeks been, since we've been on, and what's changed?
Rates are still super low, but as we analyze things and we see the effects of COVID and the spikes that we're seeing nationwide, we can see trends of bad news coming where rates could spike and go back up. So the refi trend is as steady and as robust as ever. I mean, on the whole, putting in just myself 2 or 3 loans, just refis a day, and that's not seeming to let up at all. So I think people realize that this is a unique opportunity where they can get rates in the low 3s, high 2s, and it might be the last mortgage that they ever have to have. I mean, in that particular home. So it's a unique opportunity, and we're seeing major volume, regardless of how we're seeing minor upticks in rates. It's not really affecting volume in any way.
Got it. So it sounds like, at least for the last 30 days, like since the beginning of June, things are still kind of, relatively the same. They're not really changing very much.
Nothing crazy, nothing crazy at all. And I mean, Chad would allude to this more than me, but now the purchases are coming in, and with the world opening up, there's more and more purchase opportunities, but it's extremely competitive. I mean, a lot of my qualified clients are getting outbid sometimes by $50,000 to $100,000 on a house.
Yeah.
It's crazy out there. So I mean, it's super competitive because everyone knows, hey, rates are amazing, let's buy a house, and a lot of people are ready to go here.
That's what Chad said last time too. I think he said he got his client like 30,000 or something over asking, and I feel like that's just something that is going to continue, just as you were saying.
Right, and it's making people do things a little sooner than later. We had a client we pre-qualified last night. She said, you know what, I'm really about 6 months out, but I figure I can actually qualify for $50,000 more house right now by doing it now than waiting and potentially seeing the rates go up a point.
Yeah. So do rates, just out of curiosity, do rates change daily, or is it kind of more of like a...
They change all day long. And
Really?
That's why people that get too caught up in advertising and say, oh, so-and-so lender is offering 2.9 and I got a flyer. Well, honestly, all day long, it's just like a stock. They're changing.
Yeah.
And so, you look for good entry points, and the last several weeks, there have been a lot of good entry points.
Gotcha. Is there a reason why it moves so just, up and down throughout the day?
Same as your world, the news, jobs reports,
Yep.
And bonds, how are bonds moving? What are treasuries doing? It moves with the world. Bad news with COVID, rates are going to go up.
The more that somebody wants something, the less value it's going to be, or the less valuable it's going to be. So if someone is really scared, like just how we were back in March, a lot of that money went into the bond market, which basically caused bond prices to essentially, flatline, basically just go down. And so the interest rates went down.
Right.
And what that does is it allows for the opportunity to get into, mortgages at really low rates. So conversely, if we start to see, some excitement in the economy starts to do well again, and then the Federal Reserve puts rates back up, then the value of, your bond could potentially go down because just the interest rates go all over the place. So
the weird relationship is definitely a strange relationship, but it all works together.
yeah,
Really does.
it's so weird. And I was looking at kind of past history of, when interest rates kind of went up and down, and how different they are. And to your point, like you said earlier, we're basically at, historic lows for interest rates. And so I think at least the next, couple of years, as the Federal Reserve has said, we're going to keep rates super low. It's going to allow us to kind of maintain these levels and borrow money at a lower level. So that's going to be really helpful to sort of stimulate the economy.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah. Something that I saw this week, the economy as itself is still in a period of figuring itself out.
Mm.
Unemployment this week was actually, the jobs report for June came out, and it was actually much better than expected. We actually added like 4.8 million jobs, or was it 4.8, 4.2, which is much better than was expected.
Mm.
But that being said, again, like we still have a lot of uncertainty because some states are shutting things down again.
Right.
And it only happened within the last couple of days. So if that happens again and we continue to go back down, then the market could potentially be like, oh my gosh, like we're scared again. Let's pull our money out and move to more, safer asset classes.
I noticed that hourly wages went down with unemployment, which was kind of an interesting thing with it all. But I guess because companies are bringing people back, but they're keeping their expenses streamlined.
To that point, like I was explaining a little bit earlier, the government has a ton of different bills on the docket right now. One of them was the CARES Act 2, which is essentially putting more money in business and trying to kind of start, help Main Street out again. The Federal Reserve is really trying to help small businesses and Main Street with just conducting business and staying alive, basically. Mm-hmm. But there's also another bill on the desk right now, and it's called the HEROES Act. And essentially, from what I'm reading and what I'm seeing, is that would actually put another stimulus package on the docket. And again, like that would really kind of help the everyday American get through a lot of the stuff that they have to pay for and everything. But it's just really interesting because if we look at what happened in March and people got their stimulus checks, the market went up substantially because it was, as a leading economic indicator, makes people believe that, okay, we're actually, we're going to get back to normal here pretty shortly. And it's just going to help us get through these kind of tough times. So if that happens again, it might prompt the market to do the same thing. Right. So, along with that too, we also have to talk about, or at least mention, a lot of the companies that have, kind of nosedived ever since COVID sort of hit. So like, Ford and Delta Airlines and Carnival Cruises and all those sorts of things, like a lot of the leisure companies and travel companies, they're still kind of struggling a little bit because there's still a lot of, no one's really going out. And especially, again, as we talked about this before, a lot of states and local governments are shutting everything down again. So it's going to be fascinating to see how this all plays out.
Be interesting. It's kind of scary because if it does shut down, I think there'll be a lot of small businesses that may not make it this time.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I think that, I know that there's been a lot of businesses that have shut down already. Mm-hmm. And 50% of the economic, basically GDP that comes from the United States is based off of small business.
Right.
So if we continue to see, that kind of stop or at least put on its brakes a little bit, man, I don't know, like from an economic perspective, looking forward, it still feels a little uncertain. And I think that the market is pricing in the optimism. I don't think it's pricing in like real life. And until we get either a vaccine or we figure out a way to, mitigate, more coronavirus, infections and deaths and that sort of thing, I still think that there's going to be a lot of, hesitation to do
Yeah.
and conduct business normally.
Right. I agree.
You know what I mean? And, to that point too, which is really interesting is if we're looking at how things looked back in March, we had very limited resources when it came to testing.
Mm-hmm.
And it came to finding out whether or not someone, had COVID and the timing and everything, the accuracy of the tests.
Right.
And as we've, kind of moved forward here, there's been more tests, there's been more, diagnoses, there's been all that kind of stuff. But I think, which is really fascinating, is the percentage of deaths versus contracting is much less than what was, originally kind of thought or seen. And I follow and I listen to Professor Jeremy Spiegel from, I think it's the Wharton School of Business, Pennsylvania or something. But he was saying that 75% or we've taken the death rate from where it was down to 75% from its original levels. And people are starting to, get healthier and that kind of thing based off of no vaccine and social distancing and being kind of smart with where we're at. So I don't know, man. I like, how do you feel about that? Do you think that we're probably going to continue to see that diagnoses rate rise? Like, are people going to continue to get it? Are we going to?
I think you'll see it because of all the testing. And then back in March, there wasn't a whole lot of testing. But the fact is, the hospitals are not overrunning people, and the death rate is going down. So those are good points that you make. And maybe a lot of the numbers we're seeing is because of the fact that the testing is very prevalent, and it wasn't before.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think that as we move through this whole thing, the grim painted picture isn't going to look as grim from a contracting to death ratio or perspective. But shutting everything down and causing the economy to basically stop and then start up again and potentially stop again. Like, I don't know how that's going to work out. And so I'm a little, again, apprehensive about the uncertainty with regard to how these companies are going to be doing and kind of coming out of it.
Agreed. I'm really hoping we don't shut it down again.
Yeah. I mean, from what I understand, I think LA shut down their beaches.
Right.
And,
all those people from LA are down here this weekend.
That's right. That's why it's so busy on the freeway.
Right.
Yeah, what a bummer. I'm not going to the beach because I've got my baby all weekend, so it's all good.
Right.
Which is actually, I think, a better thing. But anyway, I think the last thing that I wanted to chat about too was, I think, talking about the some of the technical indicators that I've mentioned before and what I'm watching is, like I've spoken before about, like, the volume of the SP 500, kind of where people are, and then the differences in the account values or the amount of holdings in someone's account, especially in the Robinhood kind of zone, because we talked about that last time too. And so I want to show you something. See if I can share my screen here. Can you see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So as I talked about before, this was, written 2 days ago.
Right.
But these were the top 10 companies that the top 10 most popular companies in this Robintrack app that you and I talked about a little bit before we jumped on here. And it's basically it follows Robinhood accounts and how much money goes into those accounts, the holdings of those accounts, and it basically aggregates it all into, like, charts, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So what I wanted to show you here, which I thought was really interesting, is this is kind of the Apple stock here over the course from 2018 until basically today. You can kind of see, like, we basically had really limited amount of people jumping into Robinhood. This green line is this Robinhood kind of user
Right.
per account or whatever. And so you can see like it's kind of flat, and then it goes, okay, down a little bit. And then as soon as we started to see this coronavirus thing, it just went whoop,
Mhm.
all the way up there,
Wow.
right? It's
Wow.
fascinating, right? It's so interesting.
What
So
was
this
the
is
date of that low point there, right where
this
it
right
ended up?
here.
What was the date?
It's like, I think it was March 23rd, I think it
Hmm.
was. Um,
Right when the major fear
Yeah,
hit.
like yeah, exactly. And then I can go down here to GoPro. So the GoPro is kind of the same thing. Like this is actually the stock price here. So it kind of goes up and then down a little bit, up and down. And then coronavirus hit right around here, right there, boom, and it just goes whoop, straight up there.
Wow.
So
Wow.
so this is, and then same thing with Carnival, right? Carnival cruises. We heard, basically in early March, hey, Carnival is probably not going to be doing very well because, as a leisure company, they're not able to conduct business, and so that's basically going to cause the stock to drop because no one's going to want to be on it, and so that's what happened. Stock drops here. Well, like I said before, people get excited about, oh, like there's a deal, right? I can jump in and potentially find a way to make some money, especially because I get the stimulus check. I got
Mm-hmm.
nothing to do. I'm going to play Robinhood, right? So they jump in and then look at the stock, look at how much volume and how many people jumped in, right? It's
Amazing.
crazy. And
Wow.
and you can see this kind of over everything. Microsoft is kind of a similar story to Apple, but Delta Airlines, right? It just fell here.
Mm-hmm.
People just bought it. I think it's, whatever. And the stock
Mm-hmm.
price is still kind of low, right? It's still trading around $25
Still
a
relative.
share or something.
Right.
And it just kind of goes on and on, right? Disney, this is the same thing, and American Airlines. So it's fascinating to me. I thought I'd share that because
What is the number one stock?
number one was Ford. Yeah,
Wow.
interestingly enough, yeah, Ford has 925,539 users have the stock inside of their portfolio at Robinhood at the end of June. So it's just
That is
fascinating to me,
super interesting.
right?
I'm going to go on that site when we get off this call.
Yeah, yeah, it's cool. It's pretty cool. Yeah. Anyway, um, so yeah, I thought that was fascinating. I think as we move into this next round of stimulus checks, we might see that again. You know what I mean?
Okay. When is this hero stimulus going to be signed?
So I think it's on the president's desk right now. I believe that they're looking at August for the distribution. And from what it looks like, it's actually going to be more than the first one. And I think it's 1,200 per individual. I don't know. I just know that it's more. I think it's more.
Good.
Um,
Good for all of us.
yeah, it is good. But that being said, again, like if we still have as many people unemployed as we do, and people are trying to play the market, um, it might make the market look better than how it really is.
Right.
There's
Right.
there's bankruptcies kind of happening all over the place right now, right? J. Crew and
Mhm.
Hertz. There's another really big company, Chesapeake Energy, this week.
Oh,
They
Chesapeake went
yeah
bankrupt?
yeah they filed
Wow.
for bankruptcy. So there's just gonna be a lot of restructuring with regard to businesses, and I really hope that we're able to move all of this aside, get things back on track, and have people be either employed again or just get things moving as they were before. So
I'll tell you from a lending standpoint, a lot of people that I knew that were furloughed or that got their hours decreased and we couldn't do loans for them have started to come back. So a
that's
lot of them
good
are
to
starting
hear.
work again. They're starting work in August. They're starting work this month. And, I think you're going to see continued recovery
Yeah.
at least in the job market.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say so too. I would be really curious if I think that a lot of the businesses that I frequent, and with me and my family and I, um, restaurants and bars and those sorts of things, I think they're gonna have a tough time,
I know.
and that's really sad. I think just having the ability to have someone come to your restaurant and sit there and have the experience that you
Right.
deliver for them and have a beer or a
Right.
burger or whatever, like we look forward to that. Right. And I think a lot of people are hoping to kind of get back to that sooner than later.
Yeah.
So I really hope that, we're able to keep those businesses open, because it's something that we enjoy. But that being said, there's also opportunity for new companies and new businesses to jump in and
Right.
start things that are different and unique, and potentially find ways of, being a trailblazer in this kind of environment. Like maybe there is a new, I don't know, like innovative way to have someone come to your restaurant, right? Like a drive-in, like a drive-in movie theater or something. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like maybe we're going back in time. I'd be cool with that.
I think you're going to see more sidewalk dining. I was in Solana Beach last night, and where the saddle bar is, they had people in the parking lot, just tons of people just eating, with Pillbox Cafe, and people are definitely doing what they have to do to keep these businesses going, the restaurateurs.
Yeah, that's cool. That's almost like a block party kind of.
Yeah.
It's like a parking lot party.
Right. The parking lot was packed with people eating.
That's awesome. That'd be really cool, actually. I think that brings a lot of the community together too. It's like we're all in this together. We're all kind of having this to deal with a shitty situation, and let's just kind of have a good time with it and see what we can do and support our companies that that make our community as it is. So
right.
Good deal. Anything else to add, my friend?
Wish everyone a safe weekend, and a happy July 4th weekend. And again, look forward to being on here and being with you guys again.
Yeah, buddy. Super stoked. Thanks. And happy July 4th, everybody. Happy Aloha Friday, everybody. Have a good weekend. Be safe.